Roomies, and welcome back to Roomies Review the Movies. That's me, Maria, and Lindsay.
Hi.
We were college roommates. Lindsay has a degree in film. I reviewed film for like almost 20 years. But there are some things we have both missed along the way, right? So that's what we're here to do is to catch up on those things. And so today we're going to finish out one of the most influential film trilogies of all time, Lord of the Rings. And the last movie we're going to talk about today is Return of the King.
Yes.
So it's the end of the great Peter Jackson trilogy of, that fame. And um, I don't know if we talked about it before, but these films were filmed back to back, so that way they could come out every year. And then also you have all of the same cast and crew as much as possible. All the same writers and stuff like that as much as possible to assist with that continuity that we often see kind of like doesn't carry across in other trilogies and sagas and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have a uniformity, which helps a lot of things. But I did watch the extended version because I've seen the theatrical version, but I've never watched the extended version before, and it adds so much more
Yeah.
to the theatrical version. And I was surprised actually, because usually, you have an extended version or a director's cut or something like that. And it doesn't really add all that much to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like, oh, that's interesting or whatever. As opposed to, let's see, the extended version here, for one, we go to where Saruman is in Isengard. And let's see. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm too excited. Losing my words. So Aragon, Gandalf, and Pippin all go there, right, to see, and they see Saruman at the top of the tower, and he's up there with Grima Wormtongue, and like Theoden is down there too, and he's like, come down or whatever. We really need information. He's not like trying to kill them immediately or anything, even though they just had fought this big war because of him, right? He's been soundly defeated. He's at the top of his tower. And, of course, Saruman's not trying to do that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking back at them and everything. And Grima Wormtongue stabs him, like, in the back. And he falls off the tower and onto this water wheel they had that was powering the fires for making all the weapons. And for whatever reason, the water wheel has spikes attached to it. Not sure what that's about.
Because you gotta be ready. You gotta
I don't
stay
know why
ready.
the water wheel has to be dangerous. But
You just never know.
yeah, we like to build OSHA violations.
Right.
So, but he falls onto that. That is not included in the theatrical version.
Mm.
You just kind of hear, that they're in the tower.
Yeah.
You don't really see that. And I don't know if you got a chance to see any videos in the playlist, but one of them that I posted is by the guy who was playing Saruman, of course. And he has a really interesting life story. Like, they really need to make movies about him,
Mm-hmm.
because like he'd worked for, what was it, MI5? So like the British kind of CIA kind of thing during World War II.
Mm. Okay.
He also in his 80s started like recording, Christopher Lee, that's his name. Started recording hard heavy metal records. And this is like long after these movies had come out. He did
Oh
all this.
wow. Yeah.
Right. But like during, like after his whole thing, like with the war, he's in movies like constantly. He's playing all kinds of
Mm-hmm.
iconic people. And he does a lot of voice work and stuff like that. Really interesting guy. So when it came to this scene where Grima Wormtongue is supposed to stab him, kill him, right? The director Peter Jackson's like, I want you, like give a scream or whatever when he stabs you, and he tells him, well, that's not what happens when somebody stabs you. That's not how somebody stabs sounds.
Mm.
And they want to ask, like, how do you know
Right.
that? He's
Right.
like, actually, when somebody stabs you, you don't make a lot of noise because you can't breathe.
No matter where you get stabbed.
Well, particularly in the lungs, right? Because he stabbed in the back,
Oh,
and
yeah.
getting to the lungs, right? And that's typically, I mean, that's a big area, so it's where a lot
Right,
of people go
right.
for.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Because your airbag is punctured, so you wouldn't
Hmm.
make noise.
It's hard. It's hard. You wouldn't be screaming, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they were just like, okay, uh, we'll let your experience guide this one.
Right. Right. We don't want no problems.
Yeah, yeah, super, super interesting guy. Um, but yeah, there's a lot that goes on in this movie. A lot of the events that happen in the beginning of the movie are actually things that happen in the Two Towers books.
Okay.
But they wanted to end on that battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they put a lot of stuff in here. And also, this movie has like 18% of its runtime basically is just endings. Right? A lot of endings in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So this way, it balances out a little bit more, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of story ends coming together, which I think is really satisfying. Um, and a lot of like destinies being proven and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
this one is definitely, I think, a lot of people's favorite because of that, right?
I can see that. I can
Yeah,
see that. Because this
yeah.
one, it caught me the most out of the three.
Hmm.
So, and I don't, and I was like, maybe it's me because it's a whole lot of fighting. Like the majority of the movie is fighting. So I was just like, maybe it's me. But
Oh no,
now
it's
that you're
not just
saying that,
you.
yeah.
And there's a thing with I would call them like intro movies, right? So if you're having a trilogy or whatever, multiple movies about a character or a singular story, typically that first movie is the one people like the least, because you're doing a lot of basically just telling who these people are. You're
Hmm.
not really getting a lot of story, right?
Yeah.
So you're just getting like, oh, this is who this is, and that's who that is, and we're just putting things in place, and these are their motivations. And so
Right.
typically people are like, okay, but there's not whole lot of story going on,
Hmm.
especially not fighting.
Right. Right. And I can see that being the least, especially if you are already a fan of the books.
Hmm.
Then you like, I already know these people in and out. So that would be boring to you, you
Yeah,
know?
but you got to tell everybody else, right?
Right.
And even in the first movie, we're getting introduced to people, and even in the second movie, we're getting introduced to people, right?
Hmm.
We get more action as things continue to go on, but it really just reached like a really good peak here in the last film.
Hmm.
So came out in 2003, which is
It's wild.
wild. Only 21 years ago.
Man,
You could have had a baby in 2003, and that baby would be drinking today.
exactly. And that's
Wild.
even more wild.
Wild.
Yeah.
Whew. I have a classmate, high school classmate, whose daughter is graduating high school. They're just like, oh my god.
Mm. Yeah, I remember my sister graduated at '03, and I always look at her as being young, but she's far from young nowadays.
Yeah, she's grown. She is completely grown.
Right. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
So it did set a few records for the time. Well, first of all, being this kind of movie, like there hadn't really been like a trilogy like this before,
Hmm.
especially like filming all at once, right? Because New Line Cinema is really taking like a risk, basically,
Yeah.
because the genre had not been popular for a very long time. It'd been really something that was more something you would joke about, something of nerd culture, because like we're talking about pre-Marvel, right?
Right.
Pre-Harry Potter.
Right.
So like fantasy, sci-fi, that stuff it wasn't popular.
Right.
Comic book
Especially
movies,
considering the type of movies that New Line Cinema made before.
right?
This is a huge risk.
Yes, and with as much as it cost, right?
Yeah. Right. Because that's still a lot in today's society.
I mean, the budget for this one alone was $94 million,
Hmm.
and that's just one
Right.
of the movie. That's not the whole trilogy.
Right.
And we're talking about $94 million in 2003.
Right. It's huge.
So, but it ended up, this one alone ended up getting a box office of $1.1 billion.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. Do you think that there's a do you think that there is a market for it, a movie to make that much or even get close to making that much in today's world,
I
especially
mean, we
being
already,
post COVID?
I mean, all the Marvel movies make, almost all of them, especially the later ones, make like $1 billion.
Post COVID?
Post COVID, let me see. I don't know. Um, I have to look at that. But like, I'm thinking of Miss Marvel, like the first Miss Marvel movie. It made $1 billion.
Did it?
Mhm.
What was I thinking?
The second Black Panther movie, which is post COVID,
Yeah.
it it also made $1 billion. So yeah.
Did it?
Mhm.
Wow. I didn't really think that people was going back to the theaters like that to get $1 billion worth.
Well, and also there's probably also like it was probably in theaters longer, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in more theaters than maybe before, but then also they had ways you could view them online, right? So I know
Hmm.
Disney for one, like you could rent, I guess,
Yeah.
the movie for like $40,
Hmm.
which if you have a family of four, that's a pretty good price,
Right.
right? So you don't want to go to the theater, you can rent it for $40. Lots of people do that, right?
Yeah.
For me, a single person, that is not a good price. So,
No, no. It's
you know,
astronomical.
especially not to like own it.
Right, right,
So,
exactly. Exactly. Like it makes sense if you got kids,
yeah,
but no, if it's just no, the
yeah,
theater is where we're going.
right. And what was it for the second Black Panther movie? It was me and a bunch of friends. We actually bought out a whole theater.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we could go in there and see it by ourselves.
Yeah.
And we were all testing and everything, so we wouldn't have to worry so much about COVID and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you still had people doing the whole kind of campaigns they did for the first one, where they're like buying tickets for schools and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, still very very much money makers. Not as much as before COVID, of course, but yeah. But this is before all of that, right? So we're
Right.
like in between Star Wars and everything else.
Hmm. Yeah.
So this one won all 11 awards, Academy Awards that it was nominated for,
Hmm.
including Best Picture, which was the first fantasy film to do that. Um, and then it was tying with Ben Hur and Titanic as the movie with the most Academy Award wins at the time.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm. And it became just was it just the second film series to win Best Visual Effects in Star Wars. So
Yeah.
they were really trying to shift things, and they did.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so this one is pretty long, so I'm just gonna power through the plot they have on Wikipedia, so we can just talk more about the movie and everything like that itself.
Okay.
Okay, so we start off seeing Smeagol and Deagle, and so this is like hundreds and hundreds of years ago,
Yeah.
and they're cousins, I believe, and they're out there fishing or whatever, and they find the One Ring. Deagle actually finds the One Ring in the river, and it like takes them both over almost immediately. And even though Deagle is the one who starts like the fight, Smeagol's the one who finishes it.
Hmm.
Right? He kills his cousin,
It's
so like
crazy.
strangles him. And one of the things that's really like, there's so many great moments in this movie to me, but like one of the first ones is as he's strangling Deagle, you hear Deagle's heartbeat
Hmm.
in the score, and then you eventually hear it slow down and stop, and it's just like, oh my god, Smeagol.
Hmm.
The rings allure was immediate, and his
Yeah.
you know willingness to kill his own family for it,
Right. Right.
immediate.
Right.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. So he knows he can't go back home, and he just lives in the Misty Mountains forever.
Yeah.
And that's when we like see him develop that cough, where people don't even know his name. They just call him Gollum because of the sound he makes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, I don't know. It was like, I don't know how many centuries, but he's been alive for a very, very long time because of the ring. And you can see like him transforming, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Smeagol into Gollum. It is giving very much horror movie,
Mm-hmm.
but it works really well. You can see how it's draining him, but then also how he cannot let go of it
Yeah.
for anything. So, and then we have during well, we have the War of the Ring and everything, but we have Aragon, Legolas, Gimli, and Theoden, where they go to Isengard, which we talked about before, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so while they're there, Gandalf retrieves the Palantir, which is that like a crystal ball kind of thing that they kind of communicate through. And at one point, there were lots of Palantirs, and even like men would use Palantirs to communicate and stuff like that. But it's been who knows how long, so there's only very
Mm-hmm.
few left. And this is what Saruman has been using to communicate with Sauron and things like that. So I think it was I can't remember if it was Merry or Pippin who picks it up out of the water. But Gandalf is like immediately let me have that.
Right.
And he doesn't touch it because touching it is what lets Sauron see into your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to do that.
Right.
So he retrieves the Palantir, and they go to Edoras, and they're celebrating, the victory at Helm's Deep, right? They really almost did not make it. And then Pippin, drunk and stupid, goes to find the Palantir because we need things to happen. I guess I don't know,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes good people make bad decisions, so
Yeah.
I think that's like the whole thing of Merry and Pippin. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're good people, but sometimes they make really bad decisions.
Yeah. Constantly.
But they try. They do in this movie in particular. They try to be better.
Yeah.
So they're in Edoras. They're celebrating. Pippin looks into the Palantir, even though he's been told he should not be doing that. He sees Sauron. He sees a burning tree, and it's the tree of Gondor. And he tells Gandalf about what he sees, and Gandalf realizes that Sauron is planning to attack Gondor's capital, Minas Tirith, where they have this white tree that represents their kingdom and the health of it. And if the tree looks sickly or ailing or is not blooming, there's something wrong, with the
Mm-hmm.
kingdom. So this is also the kingdom where in the very first movie they had that War of the Rings, and Isildur cut off the finger
Mm-hmm.
with the ring, and that's when the ring got lost in the river and all that stuff. So they were with Gondor, and ever since like that happened, they've had a steward for Gondor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're ruling in place of the ruling family, whose heir is Aragon. But Aragon has been very reluctant to try and have any power for himself, right? So he's kind of just like been hiding out with the elves and stuff, right? He's like, I don't really want to rule a kingdom. It's like a lot,
Right.
and I don't blame him.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
So they all ride to warn Gondor, of what's happening. Saruman's coming, and they're talking to the steward Denethor. And Denethor is almost like back when the Rohirrim king was taken over by Wormtongue, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he's not really hearing anything they have to say. He's very upset about, the loss of his first son. He very much acts like his second son does not matter to him at all.
Man.
Like he's really bad. He's not a good dad at all. Like he's,
Mm.
you know.
That was crazy because I'm like, and I think I did tweet this. I'm like, what is it that he's
Mhm.
just not listening?
Well, in the book, he also has a Palantir.
Mm,
So it's like he's kind of under the same kind of spell that Theoden was under.
okay.
And Denethor is played by John Noble, who you might recognize if you like watched Fringe or Sleepy Hollow. He was in both of
Mhm.
those shows, but he's also a really great actor.
Okay.
So they tell him about what happened with his son, and Pippin, who Pippin swears fealty to Denethor, probably because he, I don't know, he might feel guilty about what happened with Boromir, because Boromir did save his life. And but actually, before they go in and talk to Denethor, Gandalf is like, "Hey, don't talk about this, don't talk about that, and also don't talk about. How about you just don't talk at all?" Which of course never happens.
Mhm.
So he pledges himself to Denethor, who does not deserve it. And they also talk to Denethor about lighting the beacons, calling Rohan to come and all the kingdoms of men to help defend them against Saruman who's coming. And Denethor is like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. That was crazy. That was crazy.
But eventually Pippin like gets to the beacon that's there at Gondor and is able to light it. And I love the scene of like seeing the beacons lit like all across the mountainside and everything until it
Mhm.
gets to the Rohirrim and everything. I love that scene. I just think it's really great. The music is really great. It's just, I don't know, it's great. It's great. Seeing all the landscape and everything, and then like seeing the fires light, and you're like, oh, it's really
Yeah.
happening, gives you a great sense of anticipation.
Right.
And so we have Frodo, of course, who's carrying the ring, Frodo and Sam and Gollum, and they're going towards Mordor. And Gollum, at the end of the movie, had already planned to betray them, right? He's
Mhm.
like, well, I'm not going to kill them. I said I wouldn't kill them, but we'll let her do it. And you
Yeah.
know who her is. So we find out.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
on,
That was messed up.
yeah, it was really messed up. Uh, so he plans to betray them. Of course, he wants the ring for himself, and he throws away their food. But before he throws away their food, he plants a little evidence on Sam to make it look like Sam ate it all and just blaming it
Mhm.
on on him.
Yeah.
Treacherous,
Horrible. Horrible.
deception,
Yeah. Yeah.
disgrace.
But I mean, this is the crazy part about that because I feel like as a viewer, especially a first time viewer, we kind of started feeling for Gollum
Yeah.
and started buying into him actually potentially being a good guy, you know?
Hmm.
So I feel like he betrayed the viewer as well.
Well, he felt betrayed, right? Because he
Hmm.
really was going that way until was it Boromir's brother Faramir and all them captured him.
Yeah. But then they
But
saved him. So it's like I don't know. I felt some type of way behind
no,
this.
you should definitely feel some type of way.
Yeah.
Definitely, I would feel some type of way too.
Yeah.
So he frames Sam for eating the food. He destroys the food. And like Sam is watching him because of course Frodo can't really keep watch. He's like exhausted. You can see like the chain that the ring is on is like burning into his skin and like
Hmm.
everything. It looks horrible. And so he's sleeping and everything. So Sam's trying to keep watch, but of course he falls asleep. The minute he falls asleep, Gollum wakes up.
Hmm.
Gollum's just waiting. It's so creepy.
Yeah.
And he frames them for the food supplies and everything, throws them off the mountain, and wakes Frodo up and they're fighting about the food, and Gollum was like, oh, what is this, pointing to the crumbs on that he planted on Sam, right? And I think one of the things they don't really say a lot, but what seems kind of clear to me after watching it, I don't know, so many times, is that Frodo has a sympathy for Gollum because he can see himself in Gollum, right?
Hmm.
If I weren't off to destroy this ring, this is who I would become. And
Hmm.
so he understands what it's like to be under the power of the ring in a way Sam doesn't, right?
Hmm.
Or can't, just can't. And so they have that connection through that. And there's one point in the earlier movies where they talk about, well, why doesn't he just kill Gollum, And they're like, it's his sympathy for him that's gonna lead us to victory.
Mhm.
So, you know, uh, Frodo tells Sam to go home, you
Yeah.
know, and I think it's more about he doesn't want Sam to continue to suffer the way he and Gollum are suffering, right?
Mhm.
And if they're just fighting all the time, he's not going to be able to make it to destroy the ring.
Yeah, I get it.
But it breaks Sam's heart. Oh man, it breaks Sam's heart so
Oh
bad.
yeah. Yeah, it broke him down.
Yeah,
Cuz it just seemed like that was his sole part. It was to protect Fredo and help him
Frodo.
protect it or Frodo. I don't know why I keep calling him Fredo, but yeah,
Yeah,
it
you
just
did that
seemed
in
like
tweet. I was like, what?
yeah, yeah. Because I'm thinking of Fritos. I don't know why,
Are
but
you hungry? What's happening?
I know, right? But yeah,
Small Fredo.
but yeah, it just seems like he was like that was his sole purpose to protect him and help him protect the ring and get the
Yeah,
ring to the destination, and that broke him down.
yeah, absolutely. That was the only thing he wanted to do.
Mhm.
So, uh, Gollum and Frodo go on, and they get into Shelob's lair, which is the name of this giant spider who has
Horrible.
giant webs, and is absolutely unrelenting. Will hunt you to the very end.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
he Frodo tries to fight against her,
Mhm.
um, but he gets caught, literally caught in her web.
Yeah.
You know, it's giant and sticky, and she's got like this stinger on the end of one of her sections she can sting you with, and then it paralyzes you, right? Because that's how spiders
Mhm.
eat. They keep you alive, you just can't move, and then they drain you of all your blood.
Oh gosh, that sounds like a horrible death.
Yeah.
But you know what I thought of when I saw this?
Hmm.
Because it did not age well. It aged better than what I thought of, but
Hmm.
nonetheless. The original It,
Uh-huh.
remember at the end when they were fighting the big monster thing?
I don't remember.
Oh god, it's horrible. It is horrible. But yeah, like
You
it
remind me of
took
that.
out yeah, yeah. Cuz it took all the scariness away from it.
Oh, it got too silly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, but I think it's just because it didn't age well.
Yeah, but Shelob is still pretty frightening. Yeah. Um, for me, like like I don't like spiders, but like a spider that giant is like so impossible that it doesn't bother me. So
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
but they're fighting and everything, but eventually Shelob finds Frodo, like paralyzes him, binds him up in her web, and he just looks dead, right?
Mhm.
But of course, Sam never left.
Mhm.
Sam has his one goal, and that is to get Frodo to Mordor to destroy the ring. He's not going to leave.
Mhm.
So Sam finds him, and he thinks that he's dead. And because he thinks he's dead, he takes the ring before a group of orcs like comes out and finds them. Right. So he hides, and the orcs find Frodo, and they take him captive, and they take his mithril armor, um, and they want to take it all to Mount Doom, but they get into fights because they're orcs. Uh,
Mhm.
and we go back to King Theoden because he's got the signal, right, from lighting all the fires and everything. And he's like, "We're ready to fight. Tell Gondor we'll be there." And so, which is a much different King Theoden than we saw at the one for Helm's Deep, right?
Mhm.
Because they were trying to tell him, "We need to go to Helm's Deep. You need to take your people there. We need to fight whatever." And he was like, "No, I'll stand here."
Yeah.
Which was also like, "What are you doing?"
You're right.
But this time, he's ready to fight. So he gathered his army, and even his niece is planning. She's like, "Oh, it's tradition that we see the men off or whatever." And Aragorn like lifts a part of like her horse's dressing, I think, off, and he sees like she's got a sword planted with a horse, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, you're
Mhm.
not staying here." Like,
Mhm.
and she's like, "Get out of my stuff! Stop playing." She has such a crush on him. Um,
Mhm.
and eventually she confronts him about it, and he's like, "You love a shadow of an idea. Like you don't know me. It's don't worry. But I'm in love with somebody else. It's okay. Like
Mhm.
it's not
Yeah.
about you. I promise. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with
Right.
you, right?
Right.
It's
You'll find that one day.
right. It's the kindest. It's the kindest letdown, really.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah. Um. So she rides off with him as well as I think they're with Mary. I always get Mary and Pippin confused. Always.
Mhm.
I'll probably say their names wrong many times, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So
Right. Because I thought it was Pippin. So yeah.
I get confused. I honestly do.
Yeah.
So they're getting their army together. We also see Elrond comes and visit Aragorn to let him know that Arwen is dying, because she's not going to leave Middle Earth to go with him into the Undying Lands. But the thing is, when they say that she's not dying right now. It's going to be like hundreds of years.
Yeah. It's a
They
slow
make it
death.
seem like she's on her deathbed. Like, no,
Mhm.
she's going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
They're
A
like,
day
you're
or
going to
two.
outlive him, you'll outlive your son. Like, she'll be here for a long time. So,
Mhm.
but the way they present it is very much like she's dying immediately.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
no, that's not what's happening. So, having refused to leave Middle Earth, and he also gives Aragorn the reformed sword. So we saw, I think it was in the first film, in the first film when they went to Elrond and everything to form the Fellowship, and it was
Mhm.
him and Boromir talking about the sword, and it was the sword that Isildur had to cut off the ring. And so they had taken the sword and reforged it for
Mhm.
him because he's the heir to Gondor, and so they've renamed it Underreal. Don't worry about it. It's just just the sword that he needs to basically like prove his claim to Gondor, I guess. And he's like, "You really need to take the throne, sir.
Mhm.
We need some leadership around here." And he's like, "You guys are outnumbered. Like, I don't know how y'all are gonna make it if you don't go and ask for help." So
Mhm.
there's this mountain that they're all at, and there's a path inside called the Path of the Dead, where all of these ghosts of men who were unhonorable soldiers, I guess, uh,
Mhm.
thieves and cutthroats and mercenaries or whatever, have been condemned to uh, never really pass on to peace, right? So they're like, if you go in there, you'll die. Like, you can't go in there. But
Mhm.
they're, if you leave like everybody right now on the eve of battle, they're going to be like, why are our strongest people leaving? This is not awesome.
Right.
But he's like, we got to get help, or
Mhm.
we're just gonna not make it. So he goes into the path with Gimli and Legolas, and then outside we have Theoden with the rest of the soldiers who are freaking out that they have left.
Mhm.
And Theoden's like, yeah, we are outnumbered and we're gonna die, but we're gonna kill them too. So we can't not fight. So they go into the path and they have to walk on top of skulls to get there, which is just like so eerie. And
Yeah.
like when they start walking in, you see like these tendrils of like smoky ghost hands, like trying to grab at them, but they can't. And Gimli is like blowing at them, right? Like,
Mhm.
like get away from me! Like there's smoke,
Mhm. Right.
and you can hear like the crunch of the skulls under their feet, which is just like, ugh, you know.
Yeah. Weird.
And eventually they get inside the cavern and you can see how it's been carved out and everything, how there used to be like some kind of city here or something.
Mhm.
And the king of the dead, I guess, appears. They all come out from the formations of the rock, and you can see like how maybe it used to look because it
Mhm.
all gets this ghostly green glow, and it's not just the ghost, but also parts of what used to be the buildings that were there,
Mhm.
which is interesting. I guess they have ghosts too, but
So they have to have a city.
part of the ghost city.
Yep.
And so, they come out and they tell him, I love this scene. They
Mhm.
come out and they tell him, the dead do not suffer the living. Like, what are you doing here? You need to leave, or we're going to kill you, basically.
Mhm.
And he pulls out his sword and he said, "You will suffer me." And so the other guy pulls out his ghostly sword and tries to attack him with it and realizes he can't because he's got that sword of Gondor. And he's the
Mhm.
heir. And they're
Yep.
apparently pledged to the heir of Gondor. And he tells him, like, if you come fight for me, you can restore your honor and I will free you from this curse
Mhm.
of, unending existence, basically.
Yeah.
They're not dead, but they're not alive, right? They can't
Right.
eat, they can't feel, they can't none of that, right? So it has to be torturous.
Yeah, a little bit. To be stuck in the middle and you can't go nowhere.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Faramir, who had been he's been talking to his father or whatever. His father's been absolute crap. Been telling him to go back to like these places that have already been overrun with orcs and everything because they thought the orcs were attacking from the north, but they actually came from the river and they lost a lot of men and all that kind of stuff. And Denethor is like, do it again, basically, you know.
Right.
And so he is wounded by all this, his son. He's like really the only person who survived. And so they bring him back, and Denethor believes he's dead
Mhm.
for some reason.
Yeah.
Even though I think no, it is Pippin. So Pippin is the one who's there. But Pippin is like, he's alive, actually. He
Yeah.
has a fever, but he's alive.
Right.
He doesn't listen to him.
At all. He acts like he didn't even say anything.
No.
It was so weird.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
And we have scenes of Denethor. Pippin has pledged his allegiance to him, and like he asks Pippin to sing a song, and Pippin sings, and it's like he's got a very nice voice, but it's also very sad. At the same time, we have Denethor like eating all this food with his hands and like this cherry. I never forget the cherry tomato.
Yeah.
It's like bursting in
Mhm.
his mouth and down his chin and everything.
Yeah.
It's just like, like
Right. Right. It was very strategic the way they did that because it was like it looked like blood and
yeah.
it looked like it was like fangs. And
I know where
so,
you're coming from though, because he's
yeah.
like he's ignoring everything.
Mhm.
He's in complete denial.
Mhm.
From probably from losing his son, but it's like it's so dangerous. It's like beyond reason.
Mhm.
He's the armies are approaching Gondor, and he can see them. He's telling his armies to run away, to not
Mhm.
defend Gondor, to leave their posts. All
Yeah.
this stuff. He's saying both of his sons have died and stuff like that. And but even before, Faramir is just so Faramir loves him, and he asks him at one point, like, "I bet you wish I would have died instead of
Mhm.
Boromir." And he tells him, "Yes, I wish it had been that way." And I was like, "That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
so crazy."
Insane.
In the extended version, you can see that he's seeing like the ghost of Boromir.
Mm.
So he's being haunted, you know,
Right.
with his regrets about sending Boromir away and all this kind of thing. And I guess he just kind of wants the world to burn with him,
Mhm.
you know. That's why he's like, leave your post. Let's not light the beacons.
Mhm.
Go on a suicide mission.
Basically.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty much let them have it.
Right. He wants the whole world to have died with Boromir.
Hmm.
And we're not doing that today. So
Hmm.
we're not doing that today. So one of the things he tries to do is burn Faramir on a pyre, trying to give him like this great funeral or whatever. But Faramir's not dead. So, you know,
Right.
he won't listen to Pippin anymore. He releases Pippin from his service, all that kind of stuff. Pippin
Hmm.
goes to find Gandalf, and this is like while the war is starting. Right.
Right.
So the orcs have like, oh, they did this. So they're like, we brought your other soldiers or something like that, and they catapult the severed heads of the dead
Yeah.
soldiers
That was
that Faramir
crazy.
is fighting with.
Right. Right. Because when they first was launching them, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe they just had them bald, like the whole balled up body. But yeah, once they started like hitting them, and we saw that they were actually just the heads, that was crazy.
I was like, whoa, talk
Yeah.
about a demoralizer.
Man.
And then you have Denethor talking about, go ahead and leave your post. What?
Hmm. Right. Like nothing was making sense.
So while all this is going on, the orc army is breaking into the city. But Gandalf hears Pippin, like he's trying to burn him. We got to stop him because he can't really do anything. They literally toss Pippin out. So, but Gandalf hears him. He picks him up, and they ride up there together. And they're able to stop him from burning
Hmm.
his son. And this is after Gandalf already had to hit like Denethor upside the head, because when Denethor
Yeah.
is telling everybody to leave their posts, Gandalf finally just hits him and
Yeah.
is like, "Return to your posts! Like, don't listen to this."
Right. Right. Like
And
he's catching them as they're walking back.
yes, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
So Pippin's back in there, and he's able to get Faramir off the fire, and Denethor is still crazy. And Shadowfax, who is Gandalf's horse, is like, I've had enough of this shit, and like rears up at Denethor.
Hmm.
So Denethor catches on fire, and then also none of our heroes have killed him. So,
Right.
but Shadowfax had enough. Shadowfax had enough. Shadowfax saw what was
Hmm.
happening,
Hmm.
so he catches on fire. And well, the pyre was meant for a Faramir, but it's him. So, and then he like runs out of the room while he's on fire, and they have this huge peak where the tree of Gondor is,
Hmm.
and he runs off the peak.
Yeah.
And you see him in flames falling. Really, really
Hmm.
cool visual, right?
Hmm.
Although we had seen earlier that to like get up to where that is, you have to go up a bunch of stairs.
Yeah.
So there's no way he would have like caught on fire, gotten up a bunch of stairs, and did all that.
Right. Right. Like he would have died in the process.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But it doesn't matter. This looks really great.
Right. Right. We needed the visual.
Yes.
You
Period.
know.
Never let stairs get in the way of a good visual.
Okay.
So Theoden,
Never let logic get in the way of your visual.
you can do a little bit, but like nobody's gonna remember those stairs, girl. Please
Right.
let him fall off the peak.
Right.
Also, we all hate him, so please.
Yeah. It was deserved.
Yeah, it's very deserved.
Hmm.
So Theoden finally arrives, and it's like 6,000 horses, and it's just the orcs who are out there. They have like their they have like some giants maybe. They also have like this huge gosh, I forget what you call these things, but like they're trying to batter a batter ram. They're trying to get into the city.
Hmm.
They have this huge batter ram because they can't get in. The doors are much better reinforced than they were,
Yeah.
in the previous battle. And so they got this huge batter ram they created for the special occasion, I guess. And it's
Hmm.
like in the shape of a hog with and it's got fire on the inside for
Fire on the
coolness, I
inside of the
guess.
mouth. Yeah.
Right. It
That
looks like
was crazy.
yeah, it looks like it's made of steel. So
Hmm.
they're using that to get into the city and everything. But Theoden finally arrives with his 6,000 horses, and he's there with well, he doesn't know that Eowyn is there. He doesn't know that Aowen is there with Pippin, because Pippin had been like Pippin pledged to him, right?
Mhm.
But they were like, we can't really. I mean, like you're cute and all, but we can't really take you into battle. You know, you're gonna be a distraction. I can't afford having one of my men. You know, whatever. But that's why he's there with Aowen. So
Mhm.
Aowen was like, "Let's go. Can't fight, we'll fight." Right.
Mhm.
So they're there, and he's giving his speech. You know, like this is our last stand. We're probably not going to make it, but we're not going to let them. We're not going to have them have an easy time of it, right? We're going to give them a fight.
Yeah.
So with their 6,000 horses, they cut through the orcs like butter. And that's the thing with like horses with just ground troops. You have that many horses, the ground troops are not going to make it.
Mhm.
So you know they're fighting, they're doing pretty well, as we can see. But then there come the Oliphants
Yeah.
and their Herodem. So the Oliphants are like 3 times the size of actual elephants,
Crazy.
and
They
they
have
have,
like 4 or 5 tusks
yeah,
coming out. Yeah.
each of them has like 4 tusks, and they have like spikes on their tusks and spikes at their ankles and stuff, and
Mhm.
probably spikes on their tails, right? And they're being ridden by archers and everything. They have a lot of them. Now, of course, they don't have like 6,000, but you don't need 6,000 Oliphants.
No. No.
So, of course, they come in and just like decimate the Rohirrim, just by sheer size and power, right?
Right.
And what we see is all who's also joined the battle are the Nazgul. So there were 9 Nazgul made of 9 human kings, right?
Mhm.
And so there's also the Witch King, who is like the head Nazgul. So they're all there on their dragons. Thankfully, these dragons don't breathe fire, but they're also like killing it. Like,
Mhm.
you know, Gondor is getting whipped.
Yeah.
You know, um, but we also go back to Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas in the cave with the dead, right? So he's
Mhm.
asking them to fight. They don't say anything. They just laugh and disappear. And then
Right.
all of a sudden, there's this like huge avalanche of skulls. Which is like, oh, that was necessary? Okay. Because it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So they're trying to not get literally buried by skulls.
Right.
And they run out of the mountain. They're thankfully able to find a way out. And they can see on the river, like the pirates that have been enlisted to battle for Sauron,
Mhm.
and how they've already raided some of the cities on the river because we see them on fire and everything.
Mhm.
So we know they're headed to Gondor to go by the river like the orcs did before and take it that way, right? So he tries to, show them his sword. I'm the heir to Gondor. You guys need to listen to me. Like, don't do this, blah blah. And they're like, we're pirates. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you know,
Right. You don't
and
listen to instructions.
no, for who? You? Who are you? Please.
Right.
And so it seems like that Gimli and Aragorn and Legolas are gonna try and take on like 6, 8 ships by themselves.
Mhm.
But what we see actually is the army of the dead have agreed to fight. They kind of left it in the air for a minute, but,
Yeah.
but they've agreed to fight, and they come out of the mountain, and they actually like come through Aragorn, which is like this really cool effect. And they are able to slaughter the pirates.
Yeah.
So they're able to actually take the pirate ships to Gondor, which is definitely a lot faster than trying to walk or ride back, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I thought that was a cool scene as well. But I
Yeah.
was just like, they should have been and called them.
Well, he couldn't before because he had to have that sword because they weren't
Oh,
going to respect anybody who did not have that sword.
okay.
They would have
I
just killed
got
you.
you. Hmm. Okay. That makes sense. But I'm like, shoot, this would have been over in an hour and a
Okay. Where have you
half.
guys been this whole time?
Right. Like, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. That makes sense.
we have to have the sword ready to go, and then we also have to have Aragorn want, taking literally taking up the responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's in this movie where he's like, okay, fine, I guess I'll be king. Like, you know, because
Yeah.
before he was like, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that.
Right. Right.
But now he really kind of sees the need for it.
Mhm.
So he's like, I will take up my heritage, you know, and do the thing that needs to be done finally.
Mhm.
So with that and the sword, they're able to like get that army together because the ints are busy. Okay, the ints are busy.
Mhm.
All right, uh, they can't
Yeah.
have the
They
ints,
are.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's happening, and then we see also the Witch King has come in and is wounded Theoden, like mortally wounded him, and he's like crushed under his horse basically, and
Mhm.
he's landed on the ground, and he's gonna have his dragon eat him, right?
Mhm.
You can see like the Witch King coming with his dragon, like targeting Theoden specifically.
Yeah.
Theoden is like, oh crap, and he
This is
tries
how
to
it's gonna end.
make it. So we see Eowyn put herself in between the Witch King and Theoden, right?
Mhm.
And she's like, "No, you can't. You're not going to do this. You can't have him." And he's like, "Whatever, girl. Right? Whatever. Like you can't defeat me." And
Mhm.
so she actually cuts off the head of the dragon.
Right. Which is very impressive.
Yeah, immediately. Uh,
Mhm.
and of course, there goes the dragon. You know,
Mhm.
um, Pippin is out there somewhere fighting. Like,
Mhm.
so the Witch King gets off and everything, and he's got this huge javelin. Like it looks like it ought to weigh 300 pounds. It's so
At
big.
least.
And
Right.
all he has to do is hit you one time with that
Right.
thing, and it's over.
Right.
Um, but he also has like a sword too, so he's double wielding, right?
Mhm.
Which we see some more instances of in this movie. Like we also have Gandalf in the battle, like with his staff and his sword, just absolutely decimating people, you know, in a
Mhm.
circle. Um, he gets off and they're fighting and everything, and all she has is a sword and a wooden shield, right? Not even
Mhm.
a metal shield.
Right.
And she's fighting, and she's, you know, missing his swings, thankfully, because while it is
Mhm.
big and powerful, it's also slow.
It's very so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but she does get hit in her shield arm with it, right?
Mhm.
And she's pretty much out for that. Her arm is absolutely shattered, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you know, he's telling her, you know, no man can kill me. You know, I don't know what you thought, because this is it's at this time that Mary like tries to stab him,
Mhm.
but when he does, it hurts him too.
Mhm.
So it's just showing that when people attack him, when men attack him, it also attacks themselves.
Right.
So they can't really try and kill them without killing themselves. So no man can hurt him. But
Mhm.
Eowyn pulls off her helmet and says,
Yeah.
"I am no man,"
Right.
and stabs him in the where his face would be. So
Yeah.
and he like
Yeah.
implodes, like
Mhm.
collapses on himself.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me
It's
of the Wicked Witch of the West.
yeah. Yeah. I can see that parallel. Um. It is kind of like a cool thing because which we addressed before in another episode that it's not that many women in this movie.
Mm-mm.
So for the woman to get the Witch King, that was kind of cool.
It was very cool. You
Mhm.
know, I remember her pulling off her mask and saying, "I am no man." Everybody in the theater being like, "Wow," like
Right.
cheering,
Right.
right? Because another, one of the themes that we have throughout this series is how different people are discounted when it comes to those in power. Like these are people we don't have to worry about, you know, like they
Mhm.
don't think much of the hobbits at all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And clearly they don't think much of women.
No.
But
No.
these are the groups that really take them down. Like, yeah, you
Mhm.
have your men fighting the war and everything like that, but Eowyn's the one who kills the Witch King.
Mhm.
That's all her.
Yep.
And the hobbits are the one who destroy the ring.
Right.
So you could have these battles, you can win these battles, but
Mhm.
without these two, you're not winning the war.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's like, was this by design or is this something that just happened? You know?
By design,
Yeah.
but in a way they weren't thinking, right? So
Mhm.
you chose your design, but in your design, you left out these other elements. You thought they weren't important, they wouldn't factor
Mhm.
in.
Right.
So by doing that, you designed your own doom.
Mhm.
So she does that and takes him out, and she's having some words with Theoden, because he's like, my body is broken. He's like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm sorry. And
Right.
before this, he'd actually told her that he made her the ruler, should he not return. So now
Mhm.
she will be queen of the Rohirrim, I guess. So that happens. She stabs him. Mary is a little bit injured. Theoden dies in his niece's arms. Things are still going really not great for Gondor. They're getting it from all sides, the sky,
Mhm.
the earth, the water, all that. Um, and we finally see Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli come through, right?
Mhm.
And we have Legolas just takes out an Oliphant. Like, it's one of the best, one of the scenes I also love in this movie. And to me, it definitely looks like the animation has improved between the second film and this one, particularly when it comes to Legolas interacting with things, right?
Mhm.
So we have that whole scene, like the second movie, where he like is like getting on a horse, but he's like, the horse is in movement and he's like trying to swing onto the horse. And it doesn't look great.
Yeah.
But this, where he gets onto the Oliphant, looks much better.
Mhm.
So he gets onto the Oliphant. He's going up the trunks and everything. He's, shooting arrows at the folks who are operating the Oliphant. He's like,
Mhm.
he like takes out their whole little like a tent on top of it and everything. So that
Yeah.
falls to the ground. Then he shoots arrows at the back of the Oliphant's skull, and it collapses. And then he slides down the trunk of the Oliphant and like lands on the ground.
Mhm.
It's like, you know.
Yeah.
And then Gimli's like, that only counts for one.
Yeah.
Because this whole time, Gimli and Legolas have been like counting their kills to see who's the better,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
I
think
thought that was cute, but
yeah, they've been
would you
building.
count that as one?
Hmm?
Would you count that as one?
Absolutely not. Gimli knows. He knows.
It's just like, dang, he didn't did all that. When I watched it, I was just like, okay, well, that's one down. What, four more to go?
So many more.
But, you know, it's like, let's go on ahead and keep this momentum going. Let's
Yeah,
get all of the Oliphants out there, like.
yeah. Because another thing that Aaron was able to do was actually take out two Oliphants at once.
Mhm.
So she took out one and it landed on another one.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
so he does that, but of course we don't have like 14 Legolases around to
Right.
take care of all this stuff. But what we do have is the Army of the Dead. So the Army of the Dead comes through again and they sweep everything. And you can see them like going up the rounded mountain of like Gondor and everything, like this green cloud. And
Mhm.
they're able to take out all of the enemies,
Yeah.
which is like, ooh, they really came in handy.
Mhm.
It's really great, actually.
Yeah.
And so they take out all of the armies and they take out all of the enemies, get everybody out of there. And they come back to Aragorn. They're like, so, like, can we, like, finally die now? Like, our promise is fulfilled, right?
Right.
And
Like
Gimli
we
was like,
did
I
our
don't
end.
know. They're really useful in a pitch. Like, and, I was like, I understand, actually. This is an extreme tactical advantage.
I mean, yeah. But a deal's a deal.
What
You
do you
gotta let them go.
Are you going to be a good king?
Hmm.
Can a good man be a good king?
Right.
So he holds the oath true and releases them, from the curse. Their oath is fulfilled, and they can finally pass on. And so they know that Frodo still has to destroy the ring. And so they want to give them a diversion. They want to give them a chance. They want to give them some more time because they don't really know where Frodo is. They just know
Mhm.
he's on that journey. So they're like, well, let's take what we have and go, go to Mordor and like buy them some time, basically.
Mhm.
We're going to distract Sauron. Because, of course, Sauron is a giant eye, right? And you
Mhm.
can see him like sweeping across the land, trying to see everything, which makes it extremely hard to sneak up on.
Right. That's true.
So they're like, if we can draw Sauron's eye, we can give them more time and more chance to destroy the ring.
Mhm.
Because we can beat all these armies, but we have to defeat Sauron. So they go and they meet the what do they call the mouth of Sauron and Mount Doom, near Mount Doom. And the mouth of Sauron just oh my gosh, ugh, gross. Like he doesn't. We don't see him have any eyes or nose or anything. He's just a mouth, and it's like the lower half of his entire face is a mouth with like every tooth is a fang, and
Mhm.
it's just extremely juicy and dark, and looks like also at the same time like split from being too dry, yet also I don't know. It's just gross,
Yeah.
And so they're talking to him, and he shows them the mithril they got from Frodo, implying that they have Frodo and that Frodo is dead.
Mhm.
Uh, so, Aragon's like, well, in that case, let's finish it.
Mhm.
So he's like, well, we're gonna attack you anyway. So, and he says for Frodo because he doesn't know that Frodo's alive.
Mhm.
So either way, Frodo's alive or dead, we're doing this for him and his sacrifice and everything. So it's around this time that Sam and Frodo are entering the mountain finally, right?
Mhm.
Um, and they get to there's another like little like peak inside of the mountain, and of course there's a bunch of lava because it's literally a volcano in there.
Mhm.
And they get there, and Frodo decides he can't destroy it. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's basically the power of the ring. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that anyone could actually destroy the ring
Yeah.
because it's part of its power is to not want to be destroyed. Right? I don't know if you've
Mhm.
ever seen The Good Place.
Mm.
Oh, it's a really great show. Really, really great show on NBC. And it involves like these people who are in an afterlife, right? And so
Mhm.
one of the things they have is like this woman called Janet who isn't human. She's kind of like a Siri, right? So you would say,
Okay.
"Hey, Janet," and she would appear, right? And so
Okay.
she knows all of these things. You can ask her anything. You can ask her to create anything. All this kind of stuff, right? But eventually there comes a point where they have to like reboot her,
Mhm.
and she takes them to where you can do it, right? It's this button on a beach, and she tells them like, "Hey, I'm gonna beg for my life, but remember, I am not alive."
Right.
So they go close to the button. She's like, "Oh no, please don't do this. I have a family. I have kids." She's got pictures and shit. She doesn't have any of these things. None of this is real, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And they find it very difficult to try and reboot her because of this
Mhm.
defense mechanism. And so I imagine like the ring's got something kind of similar. To just you can't do it. You absolutely can't do it, right?
Yeah. They probably got something stronger.
Yeah. And you're at its
Mhm.
home base. It's got a home court advantage, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
he's been carrying this ring for all this time. Like he find Sam does rescue him from the orcs and everything, and he finds that because he's like, "Where's the ring gone?" He finds that Sam has had it in his pocket. So Sam hasn't even put it on or anything. But even when he asks the ring back from Sam, you can see it's like trying to like not let go. Sam almost doesn't let go of it.
Right.
And that's just kind of the power that it has, even though he had not physically put it on.
Mhm.
So they're finally there at the very end, and Frodo's like, "I can't do this. I'm not going to destroy the ring." And Gollum shows up, and Gollum's like, "I'm gonna get my ring. Like I'm getting my ring." And Frodo's like, "You wouldn't hurt me or whatever." And he was like, "Smeagol lied. Like I lied." And so they was it Frodo puts on the ring actually, so he's invisible. And so now we have the Gollum fighting this invisible Frodo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he actually just bites off Frodo's finger.
Yeah. Mm.
Just bites it off
Yeah. Mm.
for the ring. He's so happy. He's got the ring back, right? And they're fighting and they both roll over the edge. And we can see Smeagol holding the finger with the ring, and he's just so happy to have it again. This is his precious, whatever. And then
Mm.
he hits the lava, and he's still holding the ring up and out and staring at it until it consumes them both. Um,
Mm.
and we see Frodo has actually been able to hang on at the edge of the cliff and everything. And so Sam is able to get him up and out of there because the mountain's going to explode, right?
Mm.
So the ring falls in, the lava's coming out, they're running away because the lava is coming up and out. Uh,
Right.
and then we see also like kind of like a shockwave go across all the lands of Mordor, and like the ground starts collapsing beneath his armies and everything like that. So they're falling into the earth and they're being destroyed and everything. And we also see like the tower where Sauron's giant eye is starts to crumble and collapse and everything. And there's this huge, fires going on with that, and then also with the volcano and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But they finally have destroyed it. So it vanquishes Sauron like once and for all. And Aragorn's armies are thankfully pretty much safe and victorious and everything as everything collapses into itself. A mountain
Mm-hmm.
erupts. Frodo and Sam like narrowly escape with the help of those like eagles, basically.
Right.
And everybody's like, why didn't they just take the eagles to Mordor? Because Sauron would have seen you.
Mm-hmm.
He
Yeah.
has the Nazguls on the dragons.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. All it's going to take is one good hit, and now you're falling from hundreds of feet in the air because you were on the back of an eagle.
Well, that is definitely a good point. Yeah.
So we got to be a little bit more stealth.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
You have to be a bit more strategic.
yeah. So yeah, Gandalf rescues the hobbits with the help of the eagles, and the rest of the fellowship gather in Minas Tirith. It's where we have this scene where they're all like laughing and hugging in slow mo and everything, and it seems like it goes on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I don't know, it's just even when I saw it the first time, I was like, this is strange. But one of the things I really love about the movies and the series is you have men who are in friendships who are close and affectionate and don't mind telling each other how they feel, what their plans are. They're open
Yeah.
and vulnerable with each other, and you don't really get a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
And it's not like the story is not they're not like super macho
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. And I think it's really great. Actually, we could still use
Mm-hmm.
some more of this in film because, like, even when we were talking about what was the last one we watched with Jada Pinkett
Oh,
and
Miss Society.
Miss Society? Like my
Mm-hmm.
my favorite parts were when Rock, I might as well call him Rock, Charles
Mm-hmm.
Dutton, is talking to his son and his friend, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just like going back and forth about what they want, things they're looking for, and whatever. I was like, I love this so much because they're just like
Mm-hmm.
pouring into each other and really talking about issues, and
Mm-hmm.
connecting and showing it affection, right, and love, and like um, but I love that about that, and I love that about this
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah.
So, and then
Yeah.
that's when we kind of like go into all the different endings at this point. So we have
Mm-hmm.
Aragorn being crowned king, marrying Arwen. They also have this really great moment where everybody bows to the hobbits, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and Ar- ugh, Aragorn. I'm about to combine their names together, Aragorn and Arwen.
Mm-hmm.
Aragorn is like, you bow to no man, you know,
Yeah.
because he's like, without their determination, there's no way we would have been able to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you bow to no man, and it's just a great moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we also have the hobbits returning to the Shire, and one thing I remember about, because I haven't read the book, but I listened to like a radio play version.
Hmm.
And in the book, when they return to the Shire, it's actually uh it's been destroyed. So like everybody's enslaved. There's this scene in the first movie where I can't remember who was having a vision of the Shire, but it was like the Shire was decimated and people were enslaved and stuff like that. And that's like what actually happens when they come back to the
Mm,
Shire, and they have to,
yeah.
and it was basically under Sauron's control. So
Mm,
Sauron like hadn't really died, but it was like under his control, and they have to fight another battle like to get their home
mm,
back. But I'm glad they
mm.
didn't do that here because it's like we've been through so much. Like
Yeah.
we've been through so much.
Yes. We went through a lot.
Yeah. So they get there, but it's also very much like, especially for Frodo, is very much like he can't really connect with the folks back home anymore. Right?
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
that makes sense because he been through a whole lot.
Been through a whole lot.
Mhm.
A whole lot of PTSD going on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, and nobody there can relate.
Right. So he's returned to his, his home, but it's not the same place.
Mhm.
You know, the ring really still has it. It never leaves you, and we see that because Frodo is still plagued by the pain of losing the ring, but then also like that wound he got from the Witch King when he stabbed him. It never really heals. You know,
Mhm.
and so when the last of the elves are leaving for the Undying Lands, they invite him and Bilbo to come because they're never really going to get over it. So the only
Mhm.
kind of peace they're going to have is going to be when they leave and go to that place. And it's kind of like an analog for heaven, sort of. They're not really dying, but they're also not really going to be here, you know.
Mhm.
So they go and everything, and Frodo gives Sam this book of all their adventures, and he's like, "You will be the one to finish the book." Right? Because he's Sam's gotten married to Rosie, and they've had kids and everything, and they're living what seems to be a rather happy life in the Shire.
Mhm.
Um, Also, in the book, however, later on, Sam actually gets to go to the Undying Lands because he did carry the ring for a little bit.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. So the book he gives him is called The Red Book of Westmarch, details their adventures and everything.
Mhm.
And so they all go to the Undying Lands, and we see Bilbo also asking Frodo. We see Bilbo looking
Yeah.
much older, because the ring, he doesn't have it, and so he's
Right.
aging
Right.
in a more appropriate way than he would have with it. And he asks Frodo like, "I would like to see my ring one more time,"
Yeah.
and he's like, "I'm sorry, I lost it,"
Yeah.
because he doesn't have the heart to tell him it's destroyed. You know?
Right.
So we
Right.
go. The last thing we see are really Sam coming back to the Shire and hanging out with his family, because it's now,
Yeah.
they have declared it's now time for the Age of Men, and that's why the elves have left. So,
Mhm.
and that is the end of the saga.
Yep. That's the end of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Yes.
Um. Yeah. That was a lot. That was a lot. What was your biggest takeaway from the series as a whole?
Probably that the ring is a really good stand-in for power and
Mm.
how power corrupts,
Yeah.
and how that corruption never really leaves you.
Yeah.
You know, also how, being part of a group that's counted out of power doesn't mean that you don't have any.
Mhm.
Um, that you can't really fight evil with evil. The things that save everybody here are their connections,
Mhm.
right? So even though they've been living in these separate communities, they all come together to fight this evil because they recognize that this challenge to one is a challenge to all.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that's what I take away. What about you?
Um, what do I take away? Um, Probably, the whole thing about,
Speak up.
oh, you get closer. Yeah. Yeah, probably the whole thing about the whole power and how power can definitely corrupt. And in the right hands it could be great. In the wrong hands it could be just terror, you know.
Hmm.
So um that's probably like the biggest thing I can take away from the whole trilogy, you know.
Hmm.
And with the right with the right people, um you can't necessarily count them out in a battle,
Yeah.
you know, because yeah, well, I was calling them the monsters on Twitter. The monsters and the monsters and the monsters was supposed to win.
Right.
you know so it's kind of like the whole David and Goliath story, because like seeing all of that, I was like, oh, this ain't gonna turn out well. but but yeah, it it turned out well. And it's just so wild that all of this was over a ring.
Well, not just one ring.
Well, yeah, that's true.
He made several different rings,
Yeah,
but it was this ring to rule them all.
right, right. But yeah, yeah. And then how you say Frodo?
Frodo, yes.
Frodo. He was. I think he was horrible, horrible as I guess a carrier of some sort.
How so?
Cause it just seemed like he had to be saved. Like every time, somebody had to
Well,
save
he's
him.
not a warrior.
I know, but
He's
also,
just a delivery boy.
yeah, but the other Hobbit had to save him a couple of times too. It was like, geez, Louise.
Yeah, he did. Because
Yeah,
he's carrying the ring and it's
yeah,
affecting him physically, emotionally.
yeah, yeah. But it just seemed like maybe the Sam probably should have been the carrier.
Well, it would have done the same to Sam.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If not worse. You can see like the ring has an immediate effect on everybody almost, right?
Hmm.
And to different degrees. So, we see with Smeagol and Deagle, it escalated to violence immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
That's something
That
that,
was insane.
yeah, that's something that Frodo hadn't done.
Yeah.
So
Well,
in
yeah.
that way, he's a better carrier for it. I don't know that there's a good carrier for it,
Mm,
right?
yeah. I can
Because
see
we
that.
see him offer the ring to other people to
Hmm.
carry it, and they all decline.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. But I was just looking at it like, dang, he has to get saved. Golly,
Mhm.
again? Yeah.
Well, because he's
Um,
almost like constantly under attack just by carrying this ring.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
even to the point where, he's been so good with it the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
but at the very end, he can't give it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if he couldn't even give it up at the very end, who could?
Mm. I don't know. I don't know. That's a great question. Because I don't think that any of them could have been a better one. Maybe they just need a better person altogether.
Well, power corrupts. And absolute power
Hmm.
corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
So even with Frodo, it was just a matter of time. but we can see with other people that time is immediate. So
Hmm.
how do you
Yeah,
really
that's true.
judge who would be able to last the longest, basically? And
Yeah.
then we also have the ring itself having a will of its own.
Hmm. Yeah, and we didn't know it was gonna be this long.
Right. And because
Mm.
it pulls photo into things so it can be discovered.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
can't imagine what that kind of fight would be like.
Yeah. But it would be interesting.
It would be interesting.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into our rating systems. So we have our movie reels. One, movie reel is trash AF. Two, it exists. Three, entertaining. Four, great. Five, a true classic. So Maria, what say you?
I'm gonna go ahead and give this movie a one. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a five.
Five.
Yeah.
Okay.
True classic. Reinvigorated an entire genre.
Mhm.
Actually, more than one entire genre because it's after this. Well, actually, during this we have Harry Potter, but then like other things start to pick up as far as sci-fi and fantasy are concerned, and then we also get more going into the whole Marvel movie thing. Like
Mhm.
I don't think there's any way like comic book movies, at the very least, would be anywhere as big as they were if Lord of the Rings had not succeeded
Yeah.
in this way.
Yeah.
Um, Also, again, the visual effects.
Mhm.
Remember, this movie is 21 years old. How do the visual effects look today?
Right.
They look really good. Even the
Yeah.
ones that aren't like super smooth now still don't
Mhm.
look bad.
Right. Right. When you put it into perspective, when this was made, this is like, light years,
Yeah.
and compared to anything that was being made at the time. So you definitely have to definitely give it its props.
And there are movies now that can't hold up to how this movie looks.
That's true. That's
Um,
true.
like they invented new technologies like to
Mhm.
make this thing look as good as it does. Like, and there not only do you have that, but you do have thousands of extras as well.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Also, we were saying, well, the score is amazing. The score is amazing. Like through everything, like you could play the score for me, and I can tell you what's happening on screen.
Yeah. You seen it that much?
Not even that I've seen it that much, but like the score is so well fit to the movie.
Mm.
The audio
Interesting.
cues, you
Yeah.
get it.
Right. Right.
You know. Um, Also, like just it's by itself making that 1.14 billion,
Mhm.
right? Also winning all of these awards.
Yeah.
Um, to the point where people they're still known for this stuff today, right? Because all these
Mhm.
actors have gone on to do other things, but like
Mhm.
you can't really get too much bigger than this.
No. No.
It's constantly on great movies of all times list. And then also there's a long issue with film series, I guess you would say, like the quality of each. Like typically the first one's good, the second one's not that great, the third one could either be really great or really bad. uh
Mhm.
but this one can, I think, feel like they stepped up each and every time,
Yeah.
and they gave a super satisfying ending.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it helped with them filming them the way that they did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course people try to recreate, but it's hard to duplicate.
Yeah. Yeah. This is true.
So what
Um,
would you rate it?
I would give it a four. It was great. It was great. Like I said earlier in this video that this is the one that I out of the three that I really like the most.
Yeah.
So especially given that this ain't my genre.
Right.
So yeah.
No, I think it really, because it's not your genre, but it's still really so good.
Hmm.
Speaks a lot to everything that went into it.
Yeah. Right. Right. You definitely have to give it its props.
Yeah.
They definitely did their thing.
Because for me, I like all genres as long as you tell a good story.
Hmm.
Tell me a good story and do it well. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Um, but to be able to cross interests like that and to be such a phenomenon for so long, right?
Hmm.
Because this is just so 20. First one came out in like 2001. Last one comes out in 2003, right? So like during those whole years, it's just Lord of the Rings stuff all of the time, right? To the point where you can get, The Hobbit made into three different movies, and now you also
Hmm.
have a TV series based off the strength of a film's trilogy that ended 21 years ago.
Right. Right. Yeah. The impact is huge.
The impact is
The impact is
undeniable.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All
it got
right.
like, what did they say? It got 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Let me see. Uh, yeah. Yep. 94% Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic,
Hmm.
and 9 out of 10 on IMDb.
Yeah. So
So
pretty much everybody loved it.
yeah.
People in movies, people outside of movies. And it was just super unique
Hmm.
for the time, for sure.
Yeah. And I just want to know, how did he Gandalf keep his white so white?
That's part of the magic. That's part of the magic. He's
What?
Gandalf the White now. He
Yeah.
can't be Gandalf the Dingy, Gandalf the
Yeah.
Eggshell. That's not going to happen. No,
That is a special skill in itself,
it
though.
is. That is a particular form of magic for sure. You know,
Yeah.
the
So,
elves and Gandalf probably have a secret there, because the elves always.
right. Right. Right.
Legolas doesn't even get. He walks on top of snow. So like,
Man. Man. So, next time, the movie that we are going to watch, Jungle Fever.
I've seen parts of Jungle Fever. I don't know if I've seen all of it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I definitely have seen all of it because I saw it at the movies. And I don't know what that says about my mom and her parenting skills, but yeah,
I don't know. You seem a lovely person today, so I think it's all right.
yeah, I'm a well-rounded individual.
Yeah,
At least I try to be.
right.
Yeah, but Jungle Fever is on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube,
Okay,
and yeah, because it is not streaming anywhere.
that's wild.
Yeah,
I wonder why.
I don't know. I think maybe the subject matter. I don't know,
Okay.
but yeah, unless you purchase it. Let me say, I think you can purchase it off of Amazon, but
Okay, no problem.
yeah, but no, it's on. It's now it ain't the best quality. I will say that, and I
Oh,
believe it's backwards.
oh, so it's not really on YouTube.
Right, right. Yeah, it's not really on YouTube.
Somebody uploaded it to YouTube.
Hmm.
Okay, so I won't be watching it there.
Yeah,
Watch
yeah.
a backwards
So
movie.
yeah, yeah. That's the best I can find for you. Uh, let me see. Let me look on Prime. But it is, which is so wild because it is a movie that is pretty relevant. So the fact that you can't find it
Hmm.
nowhere is crazy. It ain't even on Amazon.
Oh wow,
You know,
that's weird. So let's try. see here. Oh yeah, it's not on Prime or anything. Okay, so maybe let's try something else that we
You
can
want to do
find.
something? Okay. All right. So if we don't do Jungle Fever, we can do Just Another Girl on the IRT.
Okay, cool.
And that is, where is it?
It's on YouTube.
Pluto.
It's on YouTube.
It is on YouTube.
Oh no, never mind.
Yeah.
It says it was, but now it says it's unavailable.
Yeah. I think it's on Pluto. Let me double check because I did see it on Pluto. See, I actually have this on DVD.
Yeah,
So
I'd
this
recommend
is my
honestly
movie.
everybody get your stuff on DVD because the way they're taking stuff off platforms right now
Mm-hmm.
is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's available for rent, so I can at least do that.
Okay. Yeah, it was on Pluto. Man, I swear, the way that they be ripping this stuff off is crazy.
Yeah, I don't.
But it is on YouTube.
Yeah, and every time you click the link, it just says it's not
Yeah,
available. So I'll
yeah.
rent it, no problem.
Okay. All right, but it's a good movie. It's definitely a good movie to watch.
I've heard about it. I have never seen it, so definitely interested
Yeah,
in watching it.
yeah.
All right, Lindsay. So where can our audience find you when you're not on this podcast?
All right. I am everywhere at L_Ranelle. That's L_RANELLE. And also on my other podcast, The Ish We Talk, where me and my cousin talk about various topics.
All right.
Where can we find you, Maria?
You can find me online pretty much everywhere, and if I'm there, you will find me at Valor More Dollars. That's VALARMOR Dollars. I'm also on another podcast called Nerdgasm Noir, where we talk about nerdy, geeky things with 5 other Black ladies. So you can come and join us there. I know for sure next time we're going to be talking about X-Men 97. Oh,
Hmm.
oh, it's so good.
Okay.
So join
Okay.
us. Join us for that one for sure.
When does that episode air?
I don't know. I'm not in charge of the schedule. So I guess you'll just have to
Okay.
subscribe to find out.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. 'Cause that would be an interesting combo.
Yeah. X-Men 97 is killing it. It's so good.
Yeah. All right. Well, yes, this is episode 53 of
Yes.
Roomies Review the Movies, and we will see you guys for episode 54. Bye.
Bye.